Hey there, comic fans. This is Comicfan with a contest entry. We've got a contest going on for Spidercomics7, and basically he wants to know who are your top 10 villains. And I think that's a very basic question, but it's still an excellent topic. I kind of like my villains sometimes more than my heroes. So this is for Spidercomics7. I believe his contest ends on Sunday, so I would suggest you guys submit the entries while you can. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start here with, let's see, my favorite villains here off the top. Magneto. Magneto, I think, was a great villain to start with. Anybody can, bend metal and control things with just an ease of a hand. It's just something that's, kind of cool. To start off with, he's the main nemesis of Professor Xavier, so that doesn't hurt either. Like I said, X-Men's one of my favorite titles, so... with this one, we also have Toad and Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch forming the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. So that's also a favorite of mine. Next X-Men up to bat would be Juggernaut. Juggernaut being Professor Xavier's, I believe it's his brother, if I'm not mistaken. This was just something that always struck me as there's nothing better than a sibling rivalry. And, it's just, since I have a brother and we used to fight quite a bit, I'd like to prefer to think of myself as Juggernaut in that kind of situation. But, I'm sure if you asked my brother, he'd say something different. Let's see. And then here's a little thing that always interested me, the love affair with the villain kind of thing. In this case would be Catwoman. Catwoman was, it always intrigued me that a villain and superhero could have romantic feelings for each other and kind of look in the other direction when something was going right or wrong with the character. You never could fully trust a supervillain when you got feelings for him, but that always interested me. Along with that would be Black Cat and Spider-Man, obviously. So there you go with that. Another thing that really strikes my interest is when you have the occasional superhero turn villain or villain turn superhero, vice versa. In this case, we have Submariner. Submariner has always been the badass. You never could take him as the hero or villain. But in the early days, most of the time you saw him as a villain. In this case, against... Human Torch, there we go. Also famous battles with Daredevil and also Iron Man. Now, you notice, he's not very effective out of water, as the covers suggest. But, you crawl into the bathtub and he's going to kick your ass. So that's, I really like that about a villain. Classic villains such as the Joker. That's something that's really great. As if with Magneto and the X-Men, you have classic characters as the Joker. I know it sounds cliche, but it's true. It's always been a favorite of mine. Those first villains that you can never get rid of. And let's see, one of my favorite villains. Or most of the favorite villains probably with Spider-Man. Those have always been great, although some people... I was about to say some people debate Spider-Man as being a great superhero. I disagree. But I really would say that his villains make him. And the challenges that they present to him, I would have to agree with that. In this case, we have Amazing Spider-Man number 15, Kraven the Hunter. Is one of my favorite villains of Spider-Man. probably because I read Kraven's Last Hunt before I went and tracked this down. Anytime a villain such as Kraven the Hunter goes and sets out to cause trouble just for sport, and that's something different. I haven't seen that a whole lot. You know, just somebody that just causes trouble for sport, just for the fun of it. Speaking of fun, next on the list of Amazing Spider-Man villains would have to be Green Goblin. What attracts me to Green Goblin is pretty much just the glider. Anytime I see Green Goblin, he's most likely on his glider. He's never off it. Of course, that's probably one of the ways to defeat him. But it's so hard to get him off it. So most of the covers when I used to see Amazing Spider-Man was him on the glider, and that's what really attracted me to him. Him and his little pumpkin bombs. He always had a pumpkin bomb in the hand. Just great stuff. And along with Spidercomics7, I'm going to have to agree that this Galactus is another one of my favorites. Eating worlds is not my thing. It probably filled me up a little too quick, but it doesn't stop Galactus. And when he starts making people, his heralds, to go out and search out for new worlds for him, just so he can eat them up, I think it's an interesting concept, not one that's, you know, followed too often. And last on my list would be Thanos, although I do not have the first appearance of Thanos. I used to have it, but sold it for some reason. I can't remember. I've never really seen a great Thanos cover, and I'd really like to see one. So anybody who responds to this, I'd really like to know what's, you know, in return, what's your favorite Thanos cover? Thanos, after I reread Infinity Gauntlet a couple months ago, just really struck a chord with me at how sinister this guy can really be. I've never seen a villain so heartless that could just like throw his niece on fire and just leave her charred remains in a half alive state. That's pretty heartless. I don't think I've seen a villain as reckless as Thanos. So there you go. There's my list. I hope other people enter the Spidercomics7 contest. He's got over 100 subscribers. I think around the 120 area. But you know, hey, it's always good to have a couple more. And so this is the end of my video. Enter his contest. We'll see you later. This is Comic Fan, and as always, happy hunting. Bye-bye.